It is time for racing once again, but before we get to the main event, we have to qualify as we start off the 2025 season of the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America here at a classic endurance venue, Sebring International Raceway. I'm Joe Peak, being joined by Rouse Racing driver Joey Atterbury and 2023 991 Cup champion Ashley Freiberg to bring you coverage here for our 15-minute session. Joey, we're back at Sebring once again, and last year we didn't start off at this venue, so a bit of a different opener for what we've got for the Endurance Challenge, but I have to say we've got quite the attendance from some great names today.
Absolutely. It's a who's who list of endurance drivers out here, and we've already had a weekend packed full of racing. We've had those 2 GT3 Cup car races as well as the 2 Cayman races out here. So lots of the drivers, already plenty of track time, and we're here bright and early Sunday morning to do some more qualifying for that endurance race.
Absolutely. So cooler temperatures here, Ashley, for the drivers. Is it going to be a little bit more difficult to get the car ready to go, or is it going to be pretty quick?
Actually, these conditions are perfect for qualifying. I'm sure we'll see some really fast lap times. Generally, this track, as it gets hotter, the times do fall off pretty significantly. So I would imagine this is prime conditions for some fast qualifying laps.
We're seeing 64 Fahrenheit air temperature for the drivers. Felt very nice coming out of the hotel towards the track, I can tell you that. And already drivers getting ready to start their first flying laps. It is not long to try and get your time in, 15 minutes. In the sprint challenge, they had 25. So this is very, very brief. Now, they do have some interesting rules because for the Pro-Am, because there's 2 classes here in the Caymans, the Pro-Am and the Am. For those that shared the 2 different classifications of drivers, the Am is the driver that actually has to qualify and set the grid. Thankfully, Joey, in endurance racing, qualifying not usually as important.
No, it's not as important, but, track position is always what you want, right? The further towards the front of the field you are, the less of the mess you're probably going to be in. And with this shorter qualifying effort, remember the ones that we already had in the weekend were just a little bit longer, so the most amount of laps that these Cayman GT4s are going to do is probably about 7 laps, and that's if they got out on green flag immediately up to speed and started doing laps. So it is going to be a very condensed qualifying session.
Absolutely. So as we watch them come around here, one way to tell them apart, if you're wondering how to know the difference between these classes, is the color on the tower on the left-hand side. The white boxes are going to be your Pro-Ams, and then the Ams will be the cars with the yellow boxes out there. Just seeing those first sectors start to pop up here, Ashley, and sharing a driver has always got to be a little bit nerve-wracking in endurance racing, kind of one of the unique aspects when you're racing with a team and having to kind of swap out.
Yeah, endurance racing is a ton of fun, honestly, because you have to, like you were saying, share the car with another driver. So even setup-wise, you have to make sure that you're compromising so that the setup fits both driving styles. And, yeah, it's a long race ahead, so you have to really think long-term here going into the race later today.
Coming down the back stretch here, you can see the 15 kind of checking on the brakes. That's Bill Finnick's car, so not going to be a hot lap for him. Maybe just still getting things warmed up and wasn't happy with how that one was going. We are seeing the first of our times up on the board, a 2:12.5 up for Ospeland, and at the top not only of his class of the Ams, but the overall. So nicely done for Griff out there. But Joey, they've obviously got a lot of experience. Most of the drivers have been out here for the sprint challenge. How much does that play into the speed that you can find now that we're 2 days in?
Speed for sure, but I think it's more the comfort factor, right? One of these drivers probably has more track time than the other. We went through the paddock a lot yesterday, and some of the drivers that are here in the endurance race actually have only gotten that test session in on Thursday, so they've just kind of been relying on data and video and their co-driver to really tell them what the car feels like. And really between yesterday's practice and today's qualifying effort, it's time to go out there and get both of those drivers up to speed. But you're right, there's always going to be that relay of information, that transfer of information, and it's better on how these 2 drivers mesh. The better they mesh, the more they get up to speed.
And this is one of multiple family-run teams that we've got here at Tartaglione out on the track coming around Sunset Bend. Reggie's in the cars, racing with his son Manny out there. But we've also got the Checkies, Anna Checki, the daughter of Greg Checki, also going to be racing together. So definitely a lot of teams that are keeping it within the family, and we'll have a very good relationship going in, no doubt. Still waiting for Anna to set a time, and it looks like Reggie Tartaglione still needs to put one down. Paul Bonderson and Bill Pelichewski as well. Although we saw earlier this weekend, Ashley, that Bill was in quite a wreck. Is that difficult when you have a very serious accident to get back out there in the car?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly depends on how bad it was. It can be time to get back up to speed and shake the jitters off, especially if it's in a more challenging corner, high-speed corner. But ultimately, as a driver, you have to realize there is always risk involved every time you go out onto the track. So the sooner you can get back out there and shake it off, the better you'll be in the long run.
Kopczynski now our fastest driver down to the 2:10s. Bill Finnick jumps up behind him, so improving there. Now, with so few cars in each of the classes, the overall definitely a factor here, and drivers probably going to be battling for that one. Griff, who was on the top step, has been shuffled down into third. Bill Finnick coming back after some good results. 2 podiums in the Sprint Challenge earlier on this weekend. Joey?
Got to take that momentum when you can, right? If you're having a good weekend, and might as well transfer it over into that endurance race. But as we've been talking about here for the first few minutes of qualifying, it's a totally different kind of approach to these races. We've been doing these 35-minute sprint races all weekend long, and now it's going to be a 2-hour race. Yeah, qualifying, like you said, it's important. It's not necessarily a death sentence if you don't qualify on the front row, but you always want to be up there. You always want to carry the momentum into each and every session, and right now we're just going to kind of see who lays down these laps and can set the grid.
Yeah, we were watching from on board Tom Kopczynski, and one of my favorite stories that I found out from him last year was if you look at his windscreen, usually our Porsche Sprint Challenge and Endurance Challenge has the names of the drivers up top. Well, his just says Cop, and that was because when they put his full name on, it went almost across the entire thing, and that was annoying to him.
Of it, right?
Exactly. So, as now we're just waiting for Bonderson and Pelichewski to put one down. Top 7 have managed to get one on the board. Pretty close up at the top there, Ashley. Only a tenth of a second between Bill and Tom.
Yeah, it's definitely super tight. Although, like we were talking, in this endurance race, it comes down to both drivers being able to perform throughout the race. So, thinking longer term, yes, it's going to be pretty tight in the first part of the race. We'll see how things sort of end up as the race goes on.
This is coming down into the hairpin once more as we continue to follow Tom through that right-hander, trying to get the throttle down out of there. He's being followed by the 86 car as well, with Griff Osplund still in that machine, trying to find some more speed after he was displaced from the top spot. Let's hop on board with Anna Checki here. Anna coming off a 2 third-place finish for the Sprint Challenge for earlier in this weekend, and coming up into one of the more technical portions. Joey, looks nice and tidy to me.
Yeah, looks pretty clean there through turn number 5. Use that exit curb out there. You always want to try to get the power down as early as possible coming out of turn 5, which can be a little bit tricky. It's a lot longer of a corner than what most people think, and then it's all about nailing this brake zone right here. I saw her last lap time was kind of in the 2:12s. She is capable of a little bit more speed based off of what we've seen this weekend. So I expect kind of the last 4 minutes of this this qualifying session for the times to really be ramping up and that leaderboard to probably change quite a bit.
So a little less than 4 minutes to go. Enough time for 2, maybe 3 laps, depending on where you are on the track. This is down through Collier and into Tower Turn. difficult braking zone into this one as it just kinks on its way in and then getting a crucial exit down towards Bishop. So far, so good, as we've been riding for much of this lap, Ashley.
Yeah, this track is definitely about exit speed, coming off of a lot of these corners, as well as just being super precise. Oh, look at her going over that curb there, trying to use every inch of the track. I love it. But yeah, I find especially, got a little bit of a slide there. With this course, if you're not super tidy, it does cost you a lot. So hopefully she can put it together in this lap.
Well, and you were talking yesterday, Joey, about how drivers need to be aggressive. That was the first thing that came to mind when I saw she kind of straddled that first curb there.
You can't get in trouble, but these Porsches, it doesn't matter if it's the Caymans or the Cup cars, their shock and spring package is just so good. They really can kind of ride over all of those curbs. Let's see what she puts down there. Yes, she does improve her lap time to 11.7, so about another 3/4 of a second faster. And it moves her up into 5th place overall currently, and that's actually 3rd place in her class.
I'm trying to figure out, because we've got C. Knight out there, and that's going to be confusing for us because there's Cody Knight and Chad Knight in that team. I'm not actually sure which one is in there. I actually might have the ability to go check that out in a second and dig that up. But since it is the that has to qualify and they are in that Pro-Am category, should be able to track that one down. In the meantime, Anna carrying on what might be the last lap. She might have time to get around for one more.
Well, and remember, this is not the same car that Anna has been driving all weekend. This has actually been her father's car that Greg has been driving all weekend. And yeah, they are the same chassis. Technically, they're the same car, but you got different size belts in there for when you exactly need the right person in the car. Everything's just a little bit different. It's all been set up for Greg all weekend. And yeah, Anna's doing a terrific job to just kind of hop in here and lay down some fast laps.
So it seems like it should be Chad in that car right now, just for everybody's information, sitting 6th overall, but 4th in class currently. You can see we've got the Cup cars ready to go. Pretty much as soon as this is over, we're heading off to the and it looks like we've had a change up in the overall order there, Joey.
Well, and I was also noticing that car that we've got on pit road is the 78, our provisional pole sitter. So it shows Charles Espenlaub in the car. You know, he's got a tremendous amount of endurance racing experience all over planet Earth out here. So it doesn't matter what racetrack he's in, he's always going to be fast. And evidently he laid down a lap time and he says, all right, that's good enough. Let's bring it in.
Not too surprised with how much racing Charles has done over the years. We come back to Tom and accelerating out of that hairpin once again, gets it wound up. I can hear some more cars trundling past us in pit lane as the clock ticks down, 20-some seconds left. Who is going to be able to get a flyer in on the last try? 72 was the last car across. That is going to be Anna Czecki. So, yes, she does get one more.
And I think just kind of seeing where the cars are on the track map right now, once we get down to 0, it's going to be it. Looks like our latest car is in turn 5 right now. So, yeah, the 52, which is coming up to Bishop and Jean Debian Le Mans curve right here, it's going to be kind of the first couple cars across the start-finish line. We'll see if they can improve.
Yeah, so that 52 will be the first to take the checkered flag, which is out now as the clock has hit 0. Osplund is coming through just after that. We're following that bright orange car right now, coming up into Le Mans, looking to launch off of Le Mans corner. Nice and easy off onto the curb, and then
A little bit of Hollywood-esque in that thing.
I wonder if there is some inspiration on that. Flagman ready with that checkered flag as here comes the 52 of Tom Kopczynski. Can he improve and take the pole right back as he comes across the line? A little bit of a weave there, which was interesting. And no, he is not going to be able to improve on his time. Oh, excuse me, that wasn't Tom. Tom's come down pit lane.
Yeah, Tom has aborted that final lap. I believe it was Osplund there who was able to cross start finish line. Did not improve the lap time yet. I think the next car that we got coming through is actually going to be the number 3. That's one of the night cars coming across start-finish line here.
Chad is going to take the lap, but he doesn't go any higher than that 4th spot. So appears we might get one more change because Anna Checki is coming around. We'll see if she decides to complete it here, Ashley. So far, we've had incredible representation from women on the grid over this weekend with multiple podiums.
Yeah, it's truly been amazing to see. And I know 2 of them are on my team with Kelly Moss. We have Lonnie and Erica. And Lonnie did an amazing job. So did Erica, too. This was her first time behind the wheel of a Cayman. So it was really, really cool to see both of them. And then Anna as well doing a fantastic job.
That looks like that's it for our qualifying for the Caymans. As Anna has abandoned the last lap, she'll stay put in 3rd in class. If she could get 3rd place again, I'll start to sense a bit of a trend over the course of this weekend. So there you go. Charles Espenlaub is going to be our fastest driver in this session. Tom Kopczynski starting from P2. Griff Osplund will be 3rd overall, but fastest in the AMs. Bill Finnick in 4th. Anna Checki in 5th. Chad Knight 6th. Tartaglione P7. Bonderson 8th. And Pelichewski in 9th. All right, then. So we've got one of them down, but we've got a whole nother set of cars, Joey, coming up with these Cup cars. Much faster vehicles out there, and hopefully should be more fun.
Yeah, so our pole sitter, Charles Espenlaub, 209.95. And, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's actually the first time we've seen the Caymans sub 210 here this weekend throughout all of the races. So definitely setting the pace. But to your point, the GT3 Cup cars, they are a little bit bigger performance window. They got a little bit more horsepower. They got a little bit more tire, a little bit more aerodynamics, just a little bit more everything. So they can usually run 5-8 seconds faster, kind of somewhere in that range, just above 2 minutes here.
Well, Ashley, you called it because you said it's prime conditions, and yeah, so that's the fastest we've seen these cars all weekend.
Yeah, and with these Yokohama tires during qualifying, the peak of the tire can be either the first lap or maybe the first 2 laps if you take care of the tire well on that outlap. And as we saw with some of the other drivers towards the end of the session, you also want to make sure you have a good tire underneath you for the race. So if you weren't able to top your previous lap time, it always is best to just kind of come back into the pits and save your tire for the race because that's what matters in the end.
I think we have just about 7 minutes, it looks like, till they release these GT3 Cup cars. So we have some time to kind of go over what we have seen out here and also what we have to expect with this group.
Well, and I think what Ashley said right there was absolutely spot on. You see a driver is kind of well known as Charles Espenlaub. He knows the performance that he can get out of the car, and once he did that lap, he just brought it right back into pit lane. So tires are always a key talking point. Tires are always going to be able to produce.
A short break. We'll come back with our coverage of the GT3 Cup classes here in Porsche Endurance Challenge.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Well, it is time to go racing once again, but this time with the GT3 Cup cars. The 992s out here, as you can see, Josh Conley ready to go. 15 minutes of qualifying here at Sebring International Raceway for the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America Series, and we've got our first race of this 2025 season. I'm Joe Peak, once again with Joey Atterbury and Ashley Freiberg joining me up here in the booth. And a slightly bigger field out here for these Cup cars, Joey, so a little bit more pressure to try and find some space.
Yeah, but thankfully it's not going to be too crowded out here. With the sprint races, we saw, 35, maybe 39 GT3 Cup cars all attacking the Sebring International Raceway, and for qualifying here, we got 12 of those Cup cars headed out there. So yeah, it is going to be a little bit more busy than what we saw out of the Caymans, but as a driver, you just kind of have to judge those gaps, see who's behind you, see who's in front of you, make sure that you are in a nice little piece of empty racetrack to go out there and do your best.
And Ashley, these were the cars that you competed in last season in 2024. So what do these drivers need to do to get the 992 Cups up to speed and ready to go for qualifying?
Yeah, so ultimately, like we were talking about in the Cayman qualifying, it comes down to how you prep your tires on the outlap. So you'll definitely see some big braking that generates a lot of heat in the tire. You don't want to slide the tire too much laterally. So just building that heat over that first lap so that your next two laps can be your two flyers for qualifying.
All right, hopefully we'll get some times in soon. This is the warm-up lap where the drivers are preparing at this stage. De Jesus going to try and get himself a good finish this time out. Had a bit of a difficult first race earlier in the weekend in the Sprint Challenge, but bounced back well in the second race and trying to ride some momentum. This is Josh Conley in the 299, circling through Lamar Corner and onto the back stretch once again. Josh, another one, honestly, that didn't have the greatest of first races, but has come back and shown he's looking pretty good in the second race, Joey.
And I think that we're seeing exactly what Ashley was saying, is that all these drivers right now, they're really trying to maximize their outlap, make sure all of those tire pressures, tire temperatures, brake temperatures are ready to go to start your first qualifying lap. And I'm going to echo what we said in Cayman qualifying too, is that if you can get it done in those first couple out there, you see all these cars on the back straightaway really just trying to prepare their car and then also prepare the driver's mind to get after it out of 17.
That blue, pink, or purple, pink, and white car that we were watching was Mike Mim. He's an interesting story because he's not just competing here in Sprint Challenge and Endurance Challenge, but he's running Carrera Cup Middle East, and he's actually second in the championship right now. So he's close to a potential title. Definitely a bit of a globetrotter, originally from Bulgaria, but has been competing both last year in 2024 and Sprint Challenge North America, as well as in the Endurance Challenge. But not afraid of traveling a little bit to get just a little bit more seat time in, Ashley.
Yeah, the more you can drive these cars, the better off you'll be in general. So certainly racing in multiple series as well. You learn a lot from racing against other drivers, driving on different tracks. Tracks in across the sea are definitely smoother in general. They don't really have very many Sebring type racetracks. So yeah, the more experience you can get in general, the better.
248 coming up behind him, trying to get a little bit of track position. Frank Vitiello is able to sneak by. So this doesn't look like, yeah, it's not a go lap for Mim. He's still preparing the car for his first flyer, but we should have a few drivers
talking about just a little bit more performance out of these Cup cars in the Cayman. You can see the data, the telemetry, almost 150 miles an hour before they jumped on the brakes right there for turn number 7, and then over 500 horsepower out of these 4-liter naturally aspirated 6-cylinder motors. Stand on that gas pedal, get up through the gears. Do we reach the top of 5th gear here before turn number 10? And stand right on the brakes one more time. And this is definitely the first real flyer that we're seeing out of this car.
Absolutely. Conley was the first to set a time, but Trinka brings the 2:27 around and goes quicker by 3 seconds. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with that? No, wait, I was thinking of a different car. Excuse me. Sorry, apologies. I was thinking of a different car that was brand new.
Well, and talking about the car itself, right? We were talking about how Mim can drive this car in a lot of different areas. I think that's one really neat thing that Porsche has done is that it doesn't matter if it's a GT4, if it's a GT3, if it's a Cup car, there are multiple series around the globe that you can go and essentially race this same chassis. So, yeah, maybe not at Sebring per se, but lots of racing that you can do to be comfortable in these cars that no matter where you go, you can get up to speed quickly.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. It was the car of the 268 that I was thinking of that is a bit fresh out there, shall we say, as we get more times on the board. Gilliland now our quickest with a 2:05.3 and a very tight margins. Charlie Hayes back by just about 0.03 of a second off that pole time. Granted, remember, we also have two different classes here. As we've got the Pro-Am and the Am. Pro-Ams are going to be the black, and the blue is the Am. Now we're looking at that car, Joey. Now we have a chance to talk a little bit about this 268.
Yeah, so the 268, the Cup car was racing in the sprint races over the weekend and unfortunately had a little bit of an incident in race number 2, so right now, this is a brand new chassis in that 288, and it really hasn't turned any laps out here, so I'm sure that the drivers are feeling things out as well as qualifying. Lots going on, lots of smells going on in the car, making sure there's no vibrations, everything's all nice and tidy under there, but look at this, already completing laps. That's great to see, especially from the team perspective and driver perspective.
Yeah, that's Ammon in the car currently, and I'm sure Darius Trinka wouldn't be too upset if I mistook him for Owen Trinkler, though. But, yeah, Owen going to be sharing that car with Dan, who has also been doing, triple duty this weekend. He's running the Endurance Challenge, he's running in the Cayman Series, and he's running in the Cup Series. So he's getting as much time in the car as he can.
It's good. I think the more practice time you got, the better you're going to be, the more you can attack this racetrack. I don't see any harm in more track time. And you see, he's still actually kind of feeling out this car. I think that what they probably did is kind of sent him out there and said, you know what, go do a couple shakedown laps. Just make sure the car is doing okay. Make sure the brake pedal pressure is exactly where it needs to be. Make sure the transmission is shifting up, shifting down exactly as it needs to be. Let's make sure the radios are go through all of the easy stuff and make sure the car is ready to go for this afternoon, because we talked about it in the Cayman qualifying. Track position is important in an endurance race, but it's better to get to the start and actually get racing. That's the most important.
You want the car in one piece once you get there for sure. But only car that we are looking for a time from is Ammon at this stage. Everybody else has managed to put one in. It's gotten a little bit farther apart. Trinka currently 0.3 ahead of Scott Blend, coming off of an impressive victory, almost having to elbow his way through to take that win in race 2 earlier on this weekend, but also was on the podium in race 1. So Scott, we know, has got some speed. We'll see if he can bounce back and try and take that one. We're going to hop on board with Darren Dean in the meantime here, Ashley, as we head down into Turn 7.
Yeah, turn 7 brake zone is crucial to really maximize that area. The ABS in these cars is incredible. So if you can really challenge those brake zones, you'll find a lot of time here. But again, like I was saying earlier, this track is also very much about exit speed. So getting that exit off of turn 7, heading into turn 10, lots of bumps in these brake zones as well. So that ABS system is working hard.
Absolutely is. Every time we get on these onboards, it really drives home how much the drivers are going through. And one thing I do love about our onboards in this series is we get both the view out the front and we can see what the driver is doing and kind of what they're experiencing. I feel like we often forget, Joey, that, I mean, there's a human inside that car, and it's a human experience. So all the jostling and everything is very much a part of it.
I think it goes to show you the grip that these Porsche race cars make, right? It's fun to watch kind of the driver drink tube kind of flail a little bit in there with the lateral Gs, and You're right. It's still up to the driver to go out there and extract the, call it the perfect lap here in qualifying. So they're going to be doing 10/10ths. They might even be doing 11/10ths in terms of their performance, but as long as you can kind of keep it in the car's performance window, it's going to go fast.
So you're saying this one goes to 11?
Yeah, it definitely can crank it to 11.
All right, out of the final corner once again, what kind of lap time are we going to get as we cross the line? And don't see any changes. I do see John Gilliland has brought his car down into pit lane. 4 minutes left. I don't think we'll see that car back out, but they are sitting in third. And critically for them, they are on the pole of the Pro-Am, but it is the Masters not the Masters, it's the AMs that are leading right now, with Darius Trinka still our quickest.
Since you had mentioned Gilliland, drawn back on yesterday, you remember that sprint race number 2? He was in the thick of it. I don't think that there was a lap that went by that he wasn't in a battle. And so Gilliland, I think, in terms of the racecraft, is 100% ready for today.
No doubt. And Ashley, I mean, we've got a slightly different format this year. So last season we ran 60-minute endurance races. This time it's going to be mostly 90, but we've got 2 hours to start this one off. What is that going to be like? The difference going to be like in having to deal with a race that's 35 minutes plus a lap normally and jumping up to almost quadruple the normal distance that you're used to.
Right. I mean, it is a little they're still racing super hard. A lot of that is because the cars are so advanced as well. They don't fail like they used to, right? So you can battle hard for the full 2 hours. So it's going to come down to endurance, not just physically, but mentally as well for all of these drivers to maintain good laps and to be clean and smart, because you don't want to also throw it into turn 1 and, end your race there. So you still have to think long term, but still push throughout the full 2 hours.
What a balance that has got to be for the drivers out there. Frank Vitiello bringing his bright red machine into the braking down at turn 7. Once again, he sits 6th overall, 4th in the AM class right now. So he's definitely got some improvement. It's going to be Mike Mim directly in front of him in terms of time, and actually by quite a bit of time. If I'm seeing that right, is that 9/10 of a second difference to the next car?
Yeah, looks to be about that between Mim and Vitiello out there. So the gaps up front relatively close. We got about a half second between first and second, and then only about a quarter of a second between second and third, and then it's pretty much repeating itself after that. So if you're looking for close times, yeah, probably the biggest gap is only first to second. The rest of them pretty much stacked right on top of each other here, Joe.
Just saw Blend go by us on pit lane, so he's definitely done. With less than 2 minutes to go, he's not going to be able to get an outlap and return from there. At best, we'll see him in second. Trinka, as well, has brought it into pit lane, so our provisional pole sitter is happy with that. And I believe, that is our provisional pole sitter there, just going by now.
I think this is smart. In qualifying, you have to have your head on your shoulders, right? If you can't get any more performance out of the car, go ahead, bring it in. Or maybe if you feel like you can do another lap and you had a mistake this lap, it's up to the driver, but they have to know to give up that lap. Don't go charging it into Sector 2 or Sector 3. Really cool everything down. Cool your brain down as well, and then get back to it if you know that you can go out there and perform a little bit better. But remember, with more performance can come more abuse, so you don't want to abuse tires when you're going to be using them later.
Josh Conley ends his session. Oh, Vitiello a little too deep there. I think that was into turn 3, unfortunately. So that's it for his qualifying. Can't really make up for that. This car, which is brand spanking new, has managed to at least put it up to 11th. Francisco de Jesus, unfortunately, on the last spot right now. So I think they're getting a bit used to it now.
And I'm looking at Sector 1. Ammon just set his fastest Sector 1 time. So I truly believe that the team probably kind of put a little bit of a script together for the first couple laps. Just let's make sure this car is A-OK, ready to go. And then once you feel it out, let's let the thing rip and see what it's got.
What's the feeling like in the car, Ashley, in these final moments of qualifying? You've used up the best of the tire, is this kind of like, I'm probably not going to make it, so I'll bring it in? Or is this last chance, adrenaline's going, let's try and make it?
It depends on the situation. I'm sure for this driver here, you're just focusing on kind of getting the car up to speed and handling wise. So you might just be treating this like a practice session as well. But for qualifying mindset, for me, I have on my dash to make sure, whether I'm going faster or slower on my dash to make sure I don't push the tire too far. So I'll pretty much know going into the first corner, 2 corners, whether or not I'm going to be quicker or not. And then that's kind of my analysis of whether I should just back it down and do a cool down lap or keep pushing for that final fast lap.
Has Ammon been pushing? He'll cross the line. Yes, he has. Up to 7th overall, 3rd in class. Fantastic effort. Charlie Hayes was the first to take that checkered flag. The 248 is going to be the next one to come on by. Vitiello, I'm expecting to be coming down pit lanes because we already saw him blow turn 3. Unfortunately, after that, it's going to be the 255 of Mike Mim, and not sure if he's going to try and complete this one. Indeed, Vitiello comes down pit lane.
I see Mim right now is in turn 17, followed by Lap in that 297 car. Looks like they both will complete these qualifying laps. Time should be popping up on the board here. See if they go any faster, and looks like Mim is going to stay put in 5th overall currently.
Yeah, I think he came. Yeah, we just saw him come down pit lane there. Lap as well. De Jesus tried to complete his final lap. The 280 also going to try and go quicker. Gilliland stays put, but he is on the pole for the Pro-Ams right now, so he'll be happy about that as the last car does improve. It looks like I think Darren Dean may have jumped up at least one and will be 5th in class, but 9th overall. So your order after that one sees Trinka take the 227 car to the overall pole, blend into 2nd, Hayes in P3. Gilliland, our pole for the Pro-Am class, but 4th, Mike Mim 5th, and then Vitiello P6. Dan Ammon in 7th. Poole will be 8th. Darren Dean in 9th. Josh Conley 10th. And then Eric Lapp and Francisco de Jesus will round out our 12-car field. Joey, quick thoughts on that, what we saw in those 2 classes. What are we expecting race-wise?
Well, that was Trinka pulling out of the pit stall there. That is your pole sitter for that Cup car class. I'm excited. I'm really excited. The racetrack was very, very busy yesterday with the Cup cars out there. And I mean, even with 25 or so Caymans and the GT4s, it was pretty busy. But between the different starts here, I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how the different stints work out and seeing how clean we can make this 2-hour endurance race here in a little bit.
Absolutely. And Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. I always love having your expertise in here, so thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to watch the race later today as well.
That's going to complete our coverage of qualifying. We'll be back for Race 1 of 2025 in the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America Series.